Hey, friend. Welcome to the very first episode of the Kingdom Life Unfiltered podcast. I'm your host, Janine Marino, and today I just want to share how excited and a little nervous that I am to finally share this with you. Honestly, when God put the idea of this podcast in my heart, I was not excited about it. I was very nervous. I have always kind of shied away from speaking, being the center of attention, or even just showing up online. And in the last couple of years, he has really done quite a work on me to kind of build that skill. And so I'm stepping out in faith today. I am stepping out in obedience. And I thought, well, if I'm going to do this, then I have to start by sharing my story, which is the hardest part. But I really want to share the real, the raw, and the unfiltered version. And so, if we're going to do this life together here, I wanted you to know who I am, where I've been, and why I so deeply believe in living a kingdom life that's wild, free, and just fully surrendered. So, thanks for being here, and let's dive into it. So, I really honestly wasn't supposed to make it this far. I grew up in an environment that was unstable and very challenging. There was a lot of chaos. I was exposed to things at a young age that no one should really experience. I ended up in rehab twice in high school. I was deeply depressed. I was self-harming before I even hit my teen years. And honestly, I didn't think I'd live past 20. And a lot of my friends from back then didn't. I dropped out of a school after a dare that led me to cut my wrist in the middle of class. I ended up in the psychiatric ward of the hospital after that. And during my last year of high school, I lived in my car, crashing on friends' couches. And for a season, I even lived with a family that wanted to start a commune. I remember so many nights just wondering if this is what life is supposed to be. And I spent years looking for love and acceptance in all the wrong places, numbing myself with alcohol and drugs and toxic relationships and distractions and just really all the things that we don't want for our children, right? At 26, I became a single mom. I worked at a bar. I struggled with drinking and I felt completely alone. And it was like the weight of all the things and all the trauma I had experienced in my life was crashing down on me. And if you told me that version of me that I would be one day a homeschooling mom of five boys, traveling the world, married to my high school sweetheart, living life on mission, I would have laughed in your face. I mean, I could not have even imagined a life like this. But God, He can do amazing things with our yes, right? So, in the middle of all that brokenness, God found me. I was introduced to a network marketing community that surprisingly was the first place that I met strong, joyful, faith-filled women. And it was actually two of my leaders there that led me to Christ and ended up baptizing me. And I can't say that then the fireworks went off and it was this beautiful, perfect transformation because that was when I started working at the bar. So it was still a little messy. But for the first time, I experienced this kind of true love that was not performance based and it was unconditional and radical and it was just this feeling of there's more out there. Like there's more for us. It's not, we're not broken, we can be healed. From that moment, everything changed. I started to see myself the way that he saw me. Not overnight, it took time. It took deepening that relationship with him, but I started to see that he saw me as chosen and redeemed, even though I didn't feel redeemed yet, I knew that it was possible. I started seeing the fruit in other people's lives of what it looks like to walk with God. He really started peeling back away all the layers I had of shame and guilt, and really piece by piece helped me start rebuilding my life. And it still happens, we never arrive. This is something that is an ongoing journey with him. But not long after I got baptized and started that journey, I reconnected with my high school sweetheart, Jay. We got married, had a baby, except not in that order. And God blessed us with three more beautiful boys. So I was already a single mom. I already had Dominic. So then we had five boys. So we went from this, I went from this chaotic survival mode life to this big, loud, beautiful, messy family. And of course, that doesn't mean life was easy. We faced a lot of different challenges over the years, health challenges. I had major surgeries and complications, and um, we had miscarriages. I had some autoimmune issues we dealt with that I left me really unable to get off the couch for days. We almost lost our son Knox, our youngest, when he was really ran over by a car and was never supposed to walk again. But today he runs and plays, and he's just a little walking miracle and reminder of God's goodness. And we'll share more about that story in another episode. But in the middle of all this, I just kept feeling God whispering and just really like leaning in and telling us like, I have more. There's more for you. And so there was a point when we had moved out of our like hometown area. It was actually just the house that Jay grew up in. And we moved out to our dream house. It was like my dream house. Like I wrote down this house on paper at one point in time, and it was on 6 acres. It had a big front porch and a willow tree. And it was just everything I thought I wanted. I'd always dreamed about this house. And it was interesting because after a couple of years, it just felt like it was also so much to take care of. And so another thing that we started inching towards is, this minimalist lifestyle, like less is more. And so as that was happening, there was also another dream that I had dreamed since I was a little girl. I remember watching like celebrities traveling around the world, doing missions. I don't know that they were Christian, so I don't think it was mission. They were serving, they were helping out people all around the world. And I thought, wow, that would be like the coolest thing ever. But I thought only celebrities do that. That's not something normal people do. So it was kind of a pipe dream. And and then there was another time I saw like, the RV life people. I was like, gosh, that would be like the coolest thing is to live full time in an RV and go see all the national parks. And the funny thing is, one of the reasons that me and Jay had split up in high school was because I was this like wild and free hippie, and he was like not, he was like ready to settle down and do work and do life. And so he didn't really like traveling. So he wasn't on board. So it wasn't something that I thought was ever possible. But, when you have a desire, you got to remember that God put it there. And so one day I finally was like frustrated about the fact that one day we weren't going to travel. Like I was thinking like when we're older, like when our kids are out of the house. And I thought, well, what are we going to do? Because like we're married and he doesn't want to travel and I do. And I was like kind of feeling this like tension about it, even though we weren't planning on doing it then. And so I finally prayed about it, and I just, I was like, God, like change the desire in my heart or change his mind about it so that we can like go on some adventure together and or pull me back into like where I'm supposed to be. And so, it was probably 2 years after I prayed that prayer that this simple, minimalism life and letting go of comfort grew into something so much bigger and just really, you know, turned into this life of faith and freedom and just saying yes wherever he leads and into the full-time RV life. And so we'll share more about that part of our story in another episode, but we sold everything. We moved into an RV. We hit the road as a family and we saw, I think, 25 plus national parks in a little over a year. And then there was, some downtime. With COVID and everything, we ended up living in a house in Colorado, which was another dream of mine from when I was in high school. I, at one point, tried to run away to Colorado, took everything out of my bank account. But when we were there, I had joked about moving to Bali. I was like, well, I heard it's cheaper there. And that turned into a reality. And we spent a year in Southeast Asia and some months in South America. Now we just got to Europe and we've gotten to serve along the way. And it's been such a blessing. We've served in orphanages, a girls' rescue center. We're actually heading to a gypsy village in the mountains later this month. And so our life really became about saying yes wherever he leads, and even when it didn't make sense. And let me tell you, sometimes it really didn't make sense. But all that to say, why Kingdom Life Unfiltered? I knew God was calling me to share this journey, not just the pretty highlight reels, but the raw behind the scenes reality, not just of travel life, but of faith and walking it out and what it looks like. Because here's the thing, we live in this world that really celebrates filters and perfection and polished images. But kingdom life, it's messy. It's unpredictable and it's really so beautifully unfiltered. And so I wanted to create a space where we could talk about the hard stuff, faith, motherhood, business, marriage, health and purpose and missions without hiding the struggles, but really, share in a way that encourages people to know that just because you say yes to God doesn't mean it's going to be rainbows and butterflies. So this is a space where you can feel safe to dream big, to heal deeply, and to step into all that God has for you without having it all together. So that is why this podcast exists. And my prayer for you is that this episode would be a reminder that God can take the most broken, overlooked, messy stories and turn them into powerful testimonies. I know if he can do it for me, he can absolutely do it for you. So you are never too far gone. You're never too broken, and you are never too late. If you're sitting there today feeling stuck, unseen, too lost to be used, I just want you to know that there's more for you. There is this wild, free kingdom life waiting for you. It's all on the other side of your yes. It's all a little bit outside of your comfort zone, but it's there. It's waiting for you. So, if today's episode spoke to you, I would love for you to share it with a friend who needs some encouragement. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. We'll be talking all things faith, family, freedom, health, leadership, business, and all the things in between. And if you feel led, please leave a review. It helps us to reach more women, more families that need this message. You can always reach out to me on Instagram at Life with the Marinos or on Facebook, Janine D. Marino. I love hearing your stories, your dreams, and what God is stirring in your heart. I'd love to cheer you on and support you in that. And then I want to leave you with one of my favorite verses. It's Romans 8:28. And we know in all things, God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. So thank you for being here, friend. I can't wait to walk this wild and unfiltered kingdom journey with you. See you soon.